Gentlemen, the time has come once again to discuss things.
Everyone complains about Superman's glasses. At least he, changes his clothes. Alright, hi everyone. Welcome to another episode of Geeky Gentlemen. I am Sid Part 2. Joining me today is Steve of the Baxi variety.
Yes, I am Baxi of the Baxi clan.
Yes, that's much better than Clan McLeod. They tend
Connor
to...
McLeod of the Clan McLeod, yes.
Yeah, they stick around. It's really annoying. They insult your wife, you challenge them to a duel, you kill them like 7 times in the duel, fucker keeps getting up. It's just a whole thing.
Is it just me, or is dueling with a trench coat and a sword just kind of uncomfortable? It seems like if you're going to get into a sword fight, a trench coat's not the best choice of equipment.
Yeah, or driving. Because, I know...
Yeah.
I've driven with the trench coat on, and I have no idea how women drive in dresses.
Absolutely.
That shit is ridiculous. So anyway, we're not here to talk about that stuff tonight. That is a weird way to start the episode. We're here to talk about a movie from 2005 called Unleashed. And this is just the kind of thing that, no other show on the internet could do. We are just the right level of not popular where I can get away with, I feel like talking about this movie from 12 years ago for no reason.
You know what? You might get a subtle number of hits on this. I won't guarantee or promise anything, because I don't like doing that. But you might get a subtle number of hits on this, because the guy who wrote this movie wrote and directed both Lucy and that... what's it called? Valiera and this Planet of 1,000 Cities or something like that?
That one I don't even know about. I know about Lucy.
Yeah, well, that's the big sci-fi movie that's coming out this summer that looks really good. That's got Dane DeHaan in it. That I really want to see. That the story that's based on is actually one of the original inspirations for Star Wars.
Interesting. Okay.
So you might get a subtle number of hits on this just from that niche group of film people that when a movie's coming out from a director they don't recognize, they go back and watch everything they've done.
So you.
Well, yeah, but also more than me.
So you, 3 times.
Connor does it too, damn it.
Okay, cool. No, this is one of those movies that, it came out in the mid-2000s, and it's kind of just been more or less forgotten about. There are certainly better movies that came out that year. Batman Begins, for example.
Casino Royale.
Yeah, sure. But there's just something about this movie that stuck with me. I remember the first time I heard about it, it was when I was watching Conan, and he had Jetley on for an interview when Jetley was promoting this movie. And what struck me about it is the thing that, sticks with me the most every time I think about this movie. I think about that interview where Jetley said he didn't do another movie for a year after this. After he filmed this, he wouldn't do another movie, or he wouldn't start filming another movie for a year because he needed to recover from this character. Because he went pretty method on this one. And
which makes sense.
Yeah, Jetley's not a great actor or anything. He's a fighter. He is known for his fighting movies. But you watch this movie, and I'm not a huge Jet Li fan or anything, but I can pretty easily say this is his best film.
Hero.
You really?
Hero.
No, it's definitely this for me.
Yeah, okay, well, we can talk about it, but...
Not necessarily his best kung fu film or fighting film. Martial arts film, there's the word I wanted. but his best, most watchable movie.
Yeah, hero.
Okay, all right, fair enough.
Yeah, well, no, I mean, not to diss this movie. This would be in, like, my top 3 for Jet Li. Okay, here's the thing. Jet Li is really interesting and has his own particular style and his own particular philosophy of martial arts that carries through. When it comes to, like, modern martial arts movie actors that aren't, like, the big Jackie Chan or Bruce Lee, I like Donnie Yen more than I've ever liked Jet Li. So when it comes to Jet Li movies, I have, like, a very specific taste that aligns more towards something that Donnie Yen would do than Jet Li would do.
Okay, correct me if I'm wrong. Hero, was that the one where, like, he was the Chinese fighter fighting the Japanese imperialists?
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's why you like that one more.
Well, duh.
But here he's fighting a capitalist, Steve. Therefore, it makes and he uses the power of art to become a better person. This should rank higher for you.
I mean, I like them both. I'm just saying. And I mean, this one's also got Bob Hoskins and Morgan Freeman, which I did not remember.
Really?
I didn't remember Bob Hoskins was in this movie.
Oh, this is interesting. Like, a lot of fan trailers for before we got Dark Knight Rises, a lot of the, like, fan trailers for the sequel to Dark Knight were using clips from this to make Bob Hoskins appear as the Penguin.
Oh, shit. That is a really good idea.
Yeah, I mean, it was him and Philip Seymour Hoffman that I remember seeing a lot of. And Bob Hoskins is, like, scary in this.
He is.
Like,
I didn't recognize him at first. I'm like, yeah. Oh, shit, that's him.
Yeah, he was never this mean in any other movie.
Yeah.
Like, ever. He is pure frickin' evil. I don't know.
And I mean, he's definitely playing it over the top, but that's sort of the point.
Yeah, I mean, this guy is just ridiculous. Like, I mean, the idea of making a person into your attack dog, you need someone who is just ridiculous.
Well, and that's the thing, right? Like, why would you write this character and your first plan is, I want Bob Hoskins to play this guy?
Right?
Like, and again, this is part of the brilliance, right? Where, like, there's always these actors that kind of build themselves on playing particular types of characters or having a particular type of personality where they don't need range, they just need their particular charm. Keanu Reeves is like this, where, like, it's not that he doesn't play different types of characters, but they're all kind of the same person. Mm-hmm. A lot of older leading men are like this. Gregory Peck is basically the same person in every movie. Sean Connery is the same person in every movie. But the moment you make them play something that is literally the opposite of the thing that they're always doing, you either do something really interesting and amazing for the actor, or something just really shitty and you never should have done it in the first place.
Yeah.
This is the example of the former, where you do not cast Bob Hoskins for this movie, but because you did, you gave him one of his best performances.
Certainly. Like, I would put this up there with Who Framed Roger Rabbit for him, where it's just like, he is that good again.
Who Framed Roger Rabbit's a better movie. I think this is a better performance.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, performance-wise.
Yeah.
And, like, this movie, I'm going to rant and rave about how much I love it for all these different things, but, like, it's got problems. I think, you know, oddly enough, for a fighting movie, some of the fights are really unnecessary and are just there because it's a fighting movie.
Well, and that's
it's debatable.
Kind of my biggest issue with it, where it's just, it's got a very particular plot, and it needs to force fights into it, so sometimes it makes the plot rest on really conveniently placed fights, or vice versa.
What do you mean by conveniently placed?
Well, as in like, so the plot has to move in a very specific way, and like when he breaks out for the first time and he meets Morgan Freeman, the movie starts off really naturally, but like the more they need to show off his fighting, the more they just have to like insert scenarios where he should be fighting and you don't necessarily need them. Like, this is a movie where there should be some violent fighting in the beginning and some violent fighting at the end, and the middle doesn't really need it as much as it has it.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, there's only the one fight in the middle that I feel is, like, really, really out of place, and it's the pool fight. But at the same time, it's the best damn fight in the movie.
It's really good. Jetley can fight, though. That's the big thing about this, is that Jetley, not only is he fantastic to watch, but, like, the kind of fighting style he does for each of his movies is always very reflective of the character he's playing. So, like, you'll notice very, very intently, like, he doesn't fight the same way here as he does in Hero or in that Fist of Fury remake he was in, where, like, this character fights like he's basically been turned into an attack dog, where, like, the art is there sometimes, but, like, he literally headbutts a dude's fist away from him. There's not grace in this. He's an attack dog.
Yeah, and like, it's funny that you mentioned that specific moment. I'm echoing just a bit, Steve.
Oh, sorry.
It's funny you mentioned that specific moment, because in the Conan interview, Conan plays a clip from the movie, and it's the scene where he headbutts a guy's fist. And Conan's like, you just headbutted a guy's fist! Like, he brings that specific one up. And, like, when he has the boss fight, I'm just going to call it, at the end, with the bald white guy, also a little out of place. But when he has the boss fight at the end, like, he bites the guy.
Yeah.
There's no sense of care for himself unless it is just to avoid immediate death. The only time we see him protect himself that is not a way of just lashing out to hit other people is when he avoids a gun.
Yeah.
That is the only time, like, he has any measure of self-protection. Everything else, he doesn't care how badly he gets hurt. All he does is hit back.
Well, it's kind of like the sort of, like, animalistic, is there a registered threat to me thing happening, where, like, there's that scene in the grocery store where, like, all of this mayhem is happening behind him, and he's just walking around kind of calmly like nothing's happening, because none of it is in any way tailored to him.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And that's the part that makes it, like, really, really scary, is just how fucking dark that is. That would just be your normal. And, like, you know, this is one of those things where, you know, I get all John Green here, but this is where I kind of, like, what is this character after this movie? Like, I like to imagine the universe that this is in, like, he gets a book deal. Because, like, that seems like the kind of thing that would just go huge. Like, people would not believe it. But, like, this, if he got out of that world and then, like, wrote a book about his life. Like, the memoir of Danny the Dog. Also, slight thing. This movie's called Danny the Dog Across the Pond. It's a much better title.
Hell yeah. Unleashed is a really generic name for a martial arts movie.
Yeah, Danny the Dog's a much better title. I never knew that until I was just, like, looking around for stuff for this movie and just saw that. I was like, oh man, that is a much better title. And also what I like about this is they do eventually just flat out explain it, but it's like 5-10 minutes in where you don't even need it. It just reaffirms what you already know. Like, I love that they open the movie by just showing you him walking, the collar coming off, and then he just beats the shit out of everybody.
That collar thing. So, like, just the whole notion of the collar goes on and he's trained to act a certain way when it's on versus when it's off. Mm-hmm. That's really fucked up.
Yeah, and, like, I love the way that builds as he's living with Sam and Victoria. Where, like, they try to touch it and he freaks, and, like, specifically the moment where Victoria takes it off, because you realize that he is conditioned to believe that once the collar comes off, he becomes an attacker. That he is conditioned by Uncle Ben. That's the guy, Bob Hoskins' character's name, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, Uncle Bert, Uncle Bart, something like that. Some of the.
It's Bart.
Okay, yeah. Uncle. Yeah, he's been conditioned by Uncle Bart to believe that he is an animal that once the collar comes off, he is physically, like, inclined to just attack. And that is a really, really horrifying thought. And so I really like the scene at the end where he's sitting there trying to decide whether or not to kill Bart. And Bart's like, you're an animal, Danny, just like me, you're an animal, just kill me. And honestly, I really, really like that scene, but I feel like his character moment is taken away by Sam and Victoria.
How so?
Well, they knock Bart out. They don't give Danny the choice not to kill him.
Okay, well, okay, that's fair. My thing with that scene is just, it's another one of those scenes where it's kind of a cliche. We do this in superhero movies all the time of like, oh, you are at the point where you have to choose whether or not to kill me, and if you don't, then I will live, and if you do, then I will win. Like, every superhero movie kind of does this, and it's played out, so like, when we get to that point in this movie, I don't buy that Bart, as a character, would, like, offer up that ultimatum and see this scenario in that way.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't think this dude would get any satisfaction out of knowing that if Danny killed him, then there is some deep philosophical angst that Danny will have to work out for the rest of his life. I don't think Bart gives a shit about that. It's really weirdly placed at the end.
Maybe. My thing is, it's pretty apparent that Bart's entire enterprise is dependent on Danny.
Yeah.
So I think that in somewhere in the back, like, my problem with that scene is not on Bart at all. Because I think somewhere in the back of his head, he knows that if he can't have Danny back, then he can't have the life he wants, period.
Sure.
So Danny killing him is the same as him not getting Danny, but he takes Danny down with him. All right? So that part I totally buy. I just don't like that Danny doesn't make the choice not to kill him. Danny just hesitates as to whether or not to kill him. What I think would have worked a lot better and would have really, really solidified that fantastic ending with Victoria's recital is if instead of, like, knocking Bart out for him, I would have loved if Victoria or Sam started playing the Mozart piece on the piano. That would have been a significantly better moment to me.
I'm not going to lie, that would definitely be a better moment. I'm more, and typically I wouldn't be, I'm more okay with Sam knocking Bart out because I think the movie, I think part of the thing with the movie is that, because he's searching for his mom part of the way through this, and like there's very much like that theme of
family.
Yeah, not only family, but like situational family, and so on some level, Bart is as much a father to him as Sam would be, and like he has to understand that on both levels. So Sam knocking Bart out and taking that choice away from him, I don't know if that's necessarily as much of a problem as it is for Danny on some level, a realization of the people who actually have influence over him and whether or not that's a good thing. That if the entire movie is built on him not having a choice and building to the point where he realizes he does, then the other side of that is recognizing the healthy degree to which he doesn't have a choice, which is in situations with his family.
Maybe, but at the same time, there is so much of that. He is an animal, he is a dog, and so he, you know, when he asks for a piano, Bart says, "What the fuck you want a piano for? Why don't you want, like, a woman? You know, you've never had a woman before." Like, there's just these really base things, these animalistic things that he's offered instead of art, instead of, you know, embracing humanity at all. Like, you have the jeweler guy say at one point, like, early on in the movie, "What really amazes me here is you've taken a man and basically turned him into a dog." And the whole character is Danny becoming a man again, being able to think for himself, make his own decisions. And I feel like Sam knocking Bart out for him takes it does certainly fill this fatherly protectionist role. And for Danny, who is basically a child, that does kind of work for Sam's character. I totally buy that move for Sam's character. But at the same time, I feel like that moment of choose whether or not to be an animal or that just kills when it is backed into a corner, like, to protect whatever, or to be a man and let someone live even if they have wronged you, is a really important choice that it feels taken away from Danny at the end.
Part of the thing here is I would not want an additional scene that tries to, like, clear up the ambiguity here. I think that would hurt the movie, so don't do that. But if Jetley was a better actor, some of the nuance of that scene might salvage it more, where, like, if you could just hold the camera on him and if you could register the emotions of he wants to make this choice, he either decides he's not going to, or that he will, Sam takes it away from him, he reacts to that and then accepts it. Like, if you saw that on his face more, it would probably work better.
Maybe, but again, I imagine, Sam and Victoria sitting there begging him not to do it, and him just, like, screaming at them, "He's took everything from me." And, like, Victoria just sitting down, or Victoria, like, putting her hand on the piano behind her while still looking at him, and, like, playing the song from memory, and just saying some of the effect of, "Not everything." Especially if it was from memory, if she, like, didn't look at the sheet music, because then it would be, you still have your memories of your mother. You still have your memories of music. And again, she has that line at the very end where she says, "This is a song dedicated to someone whose life was very much saved by music." That would make that line work on yet an additional level, because he would then have actually, hearing that song, choosing not to kill Bart but to knock him unconscious, would have meant he actively made the choice to stop being an animal and start being a person. And that's the thing, is, like, I feel like taking that choice away, it doesn't kill his character arc, but I feel like it takes away the penultimate choice.
And I agree with that. I think there's definitely more nuance in taking the choice away, but you could remedy that with him actually making the choice. Sure. It's weird. The movie feels like it's kind of the perfect runtime, and I love the way it ends. At the same time, though, particularly at the end, it feels like it kind of turns into one big action scene for a bit too long, almost like the Avengers, where, like, it's not like there isn't character moments in the action, but, like, that last action scene's like 45 minutes, so why do we just run it like this? It's not quite as bad in this, but, like, the intricate fighting, for me, gets to be more of a problem at that ending, where I kind of just want to see more of the character resolution and less of the beating up.
Yeah, like, that just does go on for a little too long. And you need the threat. You need him protecting his family. But there is just something about it that, like, it feels too much like a cheesy
It's too
action
choreographed
movie,
by the end, I think, is my thing. Where, like, from the beginning all the way up to the middle, his fights are, like, really dirty. They're, like, Jackie Chan style, except the comedy isn't there. Where, like, he's literally using everything, and there's no form. He's just reacting. And then by the end, it gets too clear.
And I think what it is by the end, he's fighting someone that actually knows how to fight. You know? I think that's what it is. Like, everyone else in the movie he's fighting is a brawler. They're a big guy, they're muscle. When he fights the bald white guy, who does not have a name, and that is a problem. When he fights that guy, it is someone who can actually fight, and so it's a unique opportunity to show, no, this guy isn't just a really proficient brawler, he does actually know how to fight, and it would blend, and it does, on some level, blend the fact that martial arts are an art form with how much of this movie is about art as well, and art's connection to, being alive. That's really great and everything. It's just that it crosses a certain level of, this is the boss fight.
Yeah.
It does a little... It's not like it's jumping the shark, but it's certainly hopping over.
It's... So okay, here's my thing with this, and this is... I'll get in a bit of Bruce Lee as opposed to Jet Li and Jackie Chan and all that here anyway, because the thing with martial arts movies, in general, is martial arts movies want to show off the fact that Americans and Westerners in general suck at making action. Because traditionally, the way we do action scenes, particularly in newer movies, is we show the movement and we show the reaction, but we cut the connection. Because we don't want actors physically punching each other. So, like, if you watch back behind the scenes for most movies, you see actors practicing and you notice, like, oh, wow, there is this giant gap between them. I wonder when they'll film the actual fight. Well, that is the actual fight. They just shoot it and edit it in a way where it doesn't look like there's a gap. And martial arts movies don't do this. Or at the very least, they try not to. So they want to show off how cool the fights are and how intricate they are in the same way that, like, someone like Michael Bay wants to show off how cool and intricate the explosions and CGI is in his Transformers movies. So when you do this, you inevitably break the pace of the story and you break sort of the reason for the martial art, which is you start making it all about the movements and the fanciness, and you make it less about what the martial art actually is, which is purely reaction-based. And this is the brilliant thing about Bruce Lee, the brilliant thing about Jeet Kune Do. The whole notion is the way of the intercepting fist, that Bruce Lee's whole thing, and martial arts by extension through him, was your opponent throws a punch and you react to it, and you react appropriately and accordingly. Fights for him are fancy and they're intricate, but they're only fancy and intricate in response to the person he's fighting. So, like, his Chuck Norris fight's a good example of this, where Chuck Norris has a very particular style, Bruce Lee doesn't. So, in Bruce Lee's ability to not stick with a set pattern of fighting, and Chuck Norris's inability to do that is why Chuck Norris loses that fight. In a lot of Jet Li movies, everyone can fight really fancily, so they all fight in really fancy ways, and they do moves that are more trouble than they're worth. Where, like, in a real fight, the quicker you land the hit, and the quicker the fight is over, the better. And this, Jet Li never does that. Again, this is why I prefer more Donnie Yen movies when it comes to martial arts. So, by the end of for the most of the movie, he's not doing this. By the end of the movie, he is. By the end of the movie, it is just Jet Li choreographing a really intricate fight. Not that it's not a cool fight. It's just, at that point, it's like the Star Wars prequels. I know it's fake now. I see the dance.
Yeah, and like, and the only point, echoing again, Steve, the only point at which that stops being a problem in that fight is when the fight is almost over, and him and the bald guy are in the bathroom. Like, not the shower area, but specifically that tiny little spot where the toilet is. And, like, every time they miss, they hit a wall. So it is actively costing them. And that is just cool that it was that claustrophobic a fight. It's like every time you throw a punch, you either are going to connect or you are going to damage yourself. And that was a cool idea.
Yeah, I absolutely agree.
And I love that Danny gets out of it by biting him.
Yeah, absolutely, I agree. And then that's kind of the thing, like, right? Where, like, the circumstances and your opponent dictate the way you respond. Bruce Lee has a quote where he says, "When they expand, I contract. When they contract, I expand." So in that particular scene, that works perfectly, where literally every movement has a physical reaction, and that physical reaction determines how you counter with the next reaction. And those kinds of physical limits is also something Jackie Chan does really well, where, like, Jackie Chan's fights only play in the context in which they're being shot. So, like, if he has a ladder, he will use a ladder. It's not a matter of, here is how I do movements in every fight.
Yep. And, like, that it works really well for Jackie because then he can incorporate a lot of comedy into that. One of my favorite shots from one of Jackie's movies is Shanghai Nights, where he redoes not Singing in the Rain, what is it? Pygmalion, My Fair Lady. Where he does the bit from My Fair Lady with the umbrella the barrels and stuff. Yeah, like, that's really funny. And he does other stuff that's just more outlandish. Like, there's a point where he he cosplays as what's her name from Street Fighter.
Chun-Li.
That was pretty. Yeah, that was pretty funny. But like I don't know, subtle stuff like that just works better for me, where you got to know it before you laugh at it.
Yeah.
But I don't know, like that works very well for him, where everything's a weapon. There was the guy, and I think he's only had one movie or one movie that got released here in the West to any acclaim. The Protector. I'm trying to remember the name of the actor in that.
I know what you're talking about. Let me look it up real quick.
Yeah, that guy has a really cool fighting style too. That's kind of like a combination of Lee and Jackie Chan's, where
Tony Jaa? Tony
yeah,
J?
that's it. Yeah, Jaa. It's Jaa.
Yeah. Okay.
He has a really cool fighting style where like he mixes parkour in with his fighting. So like there's this amazing shot in The Protector where for some reason there's a giant glass wall at the end of an alley, and a guy on a motorcycle is driving quickly down the alley and is gonna like run his ass over. And there's like any other normal person would like probably stand to the side at the last second or whatever, but the way they shot this was just so fucking epic, where he actually runs up the glass wall right in time with the motorcycle person about to go through the glass wall and backflips off of it, kicks him in the head right before the motorcycle drives through the glass wall. It's epic as shit. It makes no sense, but it's so cool.
It's true. It is kind of badass. I do love that.
Yeah,
The Protector's actually is one of those really, really fun movies that I forgot to add on our guilty pleasure list.
Oh yeah, it makes no sense. It's all about a fucking elephant for some reason, but like he just like jumps up and kicks a street lamp in the middle of a conversation. And it's pretty bad. Like I would be intimidated if I was just sitting there like having a kind of a shitty conversation with someone and they got angry and like backflipped and kicked out a street lamp. That would frighten me, but at the same time, like why would you do that?
I mean, you win the argument, so why not do it?
That should be a gif of just like, I won this argument, street lamp kick.
Tony Jaa just kicked a street lamp. Your argument's invalid.
Exactly. Like, there's just a lot of stuff like that where it's really interesting to see how, fight choreography can enhance, like, cinematography, but with the case of Protector and this final fight scene in Unleashed, it can actually diminish the story, whereas the beginning fight scene in Unleashed quite enhances the story. Now, I will say, to give an out, I don't know how much I buy this argument, but I think you can make an argument that it makes more sense that the final fight is more artistic, more flourishing and stuff, because it's meant to look more elegant, because that's the point at which Danny starts protecting himself, because now he actually cares about himself and his family.
But I don't know why that would necessitate a fight that's more complicated than it needs to be.
Certainly, I'm just saying, like, it's more elegant at that point. It's more about, like, we were talking about it earlier, in the beginning fights, he does not give a shit about himself. He never defends himself unless his life is in immediate danger, like with a gun. Whereas here, in that final fight, he's actually blocking, and he avoids that guy's sword, as opposed to just, like, letting him cut him. Like, I feel like,
as opposed to just, like, taking it as a badass or something.
Yeah, like, I feel like if Danny fought that guy in the beginning of the movie and the guy used the sword, Danny would, like, let it cut into his arm while flexing so he knew he could stop the blade in order to, like, punch him in the throat or something.
Sure, I can get behind that. It's just a matter of, like... because, okay, so, again, more with the Bruce Lee, and then more with the art thing, where, like, art has to be honest. And so, like, if his fight gets more elegant, but in getting elegant, it gets phony in the sense that, like, it's just doing random show-offy moves, then, like, it's got a weird performative contradiction with the theme of the movie, and that's just my whole thing with it.
No, I agree. It's not a solve all the problem argument, but I feel like you can make an argument at that point.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I could see that. I could definitely see Danny's style getting more honed as the movie goes on, because, like you said, he's learning to care about himself more. It's just a matter of, like, balancing that with the looking cool.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the problem. It's like, it definitely, I feel like Jetley understood that his fighting was supposed to get more, I don't know if elegant's the right word to use here, but more passion put into it as opposed to just raw power. Yeah. I think Jetley understood that part, but he and the fight choreographer didn't quite understand how to communicate that in a way that didn't just feel kind of generic.
And also, considering the kind of level of the fights this movie had so far, I feel like on some level, particularly with Jet Li's history, they probably wanted a fight that looked bigger for the end.
Yeah.
Like, it's just hard to avoid having a martial arts movie of all things that doesn't have some kind of big fight at the end. Have you ever seen Man of Tai Chi?
No.
Okay, that's a martial arts movie, but Keanu Reeves is in it, and he's the bad guy. And it's kind of hysterical, where it's just a really bizarre movie. It makes no sense, but it's kind of fun. But that's one of those martial arts movies where, like, it builds tournament style to a very big final fight. Mm-hmm. But the tournament fight isn't the final one. It's a more personal fight between the main character and Keanu Reeves' character. And that fight gets so preposterous that Keanu Reeves kicks the guy he's fighting up into the air and away from him, then reaches down and pulls his leg back towards him in midair and then kicks him away again.
That's a video game combo, man.
It is, and it's gorgeous, but like that entire movie, nothing like that. It was all like bare-knuckle boxing style, really brutal fights, and even the big, like, quote-unquote ending tournament fight was more just like, I don't know if I should be doing this. Get beat up a little bit. Oh, never mind. I need to survive, so beat up bad guy kind of thing. Like, they were smaller, they were more personal, but by the end, it was just nonsense.
Yeah, that's always a pain when it feels like it has to go, like, typical... You know, this to go back to Bruce Lee again, the thing that was really cool about Bruce Lee is he wasn't the first kung fu artist to come to the States and film stuff. It's just that Bruce Lee was the one who goes, no, fuck, we're not doing wires and flying across the room. No, we're going to do actual fighting.
And, of course, because Bruce Lee's movies are important and philosophically important before they're, like, really good movies. Mm-hmm. So even he has this problem sometimes where, like, for example, in I think it's The Big Boss, where, like, he does the thing with the hands. Like, he just moves his hands and there's, like, a back trail of it. Where, like, that is kind of about the looking cool. But even then, that works for the context of the movie, and it's not, like, over-complicated fighting moves that cause the fight to go on longer than it needs to.
I'm trying to remember. I think it might have been Kevin Hart, but there was this comedian who had a really funny joke about how he would not mess with Asian people in public. Like if like an Asian guy stole his parking spot, he would not say anything, and it's because he would be afraid that he'd like try to pick a fight, and like the guy would do like some kung fu pose, and he'd just know he was about to get his ass kicked. And so he's like, man, so if I were Asian, I would totally like, even if I didn't know kung fu or anything, I would just, anytime someone started some shit with me, I would just strike a pose like that, and there'd be a pretty good chance, I feel, the person would just run away.
Play into the stereotype. There you go.
I know, and like it's a really good point though, because I feel like people are conditioned. It's like Alex the other day on like a couple weeks back on Twitter talked about how he loved asteroid bases in sci-fi. I was like, wouldn't it be like really, really dangerous, like that you'd run into another asteroid? He goes, no, actually asteroids are really far away. I'm like, I knew that as a fact, that asteroids are not in fact close together, but every movie I've ever seen with an asteroid field, they're like right next to each other. So of course I think that's a really stupid idea. So it's like social conditioning based on stereotypes and like Hollywood bullshit, and so I don't know, it's just a whole thing.
It's genre expectation. It's kind of a messed up thing.
There's the clip, Steve. Genre expectation.
Yes.
Oh, nice. Anyway, so yeah, I agree. The fights, like, they do get a little ridiculous at the end. I think you could maybe make an argument for it, but like, this movie gets more and more problematic at the end, but not like to the point where it breaks it at all for me.
Well, it doesn't break. It's just a matter of like, it's a matter of like, the tension builds to a really intricate personal level, and whenever we do that in movies, we have this weird need to like overcompensate with the ending action scene. Superhero movies do this again. I guess I'm just thinking about superhero movie strips lately, but like, superhero movies do this where like, you can't have a deep emotional internalization for a character unless the background of it is literally the world ending. We rarely allow a character to do that. And I think maybe it's just thinking with most movies where like, something about having deep emotions feels uncomfortable unless the stakes outside somehow match them.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of just the nature of comic books at a certain extent.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, you know, there's Batman or Superman thinking about, you know, his personal life while he's saving the Earth from a meteor. It's just kind of the thing, right?
Yeah, and it's the same thing here where, like, the movie is really uncomfortable, and it gets more and more comfortable, but, like, because of that, the particular kind of, like, trained to be a vicious attack dog thing starts to sink in more of, like, oh, Danny's learning to be a good human being. Look at how awful it is that he had to waste all of these years not being that. And so, like, it just gets more and more uncomfortable as it goes on. And so by the end, it just kind of has to give you a big finish with a bit of a happy ending, or else the movie just gets kind of emotionally taxing.
Yep. I kind of agree with that. I think, like, there are a lot of problems at the end. Like, I already talked about Danny's character arc, and I think on some level that's the biggest problem.
Yeah, sure.
At least for me personally. I also think it's just weird that, like, it's not that they don't introduce the bald white guy. It's that they introduce him by showing a shot of him and no other context whatsoever until he's there to fight at the end. Like, how did Uncle Bert even get that guy to come fight Danny with him?
Martial arts movie logic of, I conveniently need someone of skill and presence. Oh, look at this person that I happen to have of both skill and presence.
Yeah, and it's like, you know, in all honesty, it should be Bart that he's fighting there. It really should. Like, as far as character resolution, Bob Hoskins doesn't know how to fight. So that's not going to happen.
I mean, then you run into the John Wick problem of, like, yes, I understand on an emotional and thematic level why this needs to be the fight, but just on a practical level, there's no way this old, overweight white dude is going to take out this guy.
Yeah. And so, like, it makes sense that you need another physical threat. I just feel like the bald guy is not that threat. I feel like either we needed to show more with bald guy throughout the movie as to why he would be a threat to Danny. Like, you know, we get the scenes at the fighting club. Maybe it would have been good to show that guy winning, like, other fights. Like,
yeah.
Like, he fights before Danny, and then Danny fights, and like, do that both times so we parallel them. And, like, so when Danny refuses to kill in his second fight, he's, like, robbing that guy of his opportunity to verse Danny. And that pisses him off because he wanted to be able to fight Danny. Like, something like that. Just some motivation for that guy. Something to give that guy a sense of stakes. Like, he is just as proficient as Danny. This wouldn't have worked with the way the movie works. Or, I don't know, maybe it could have, but you need to extend the timeline of it. As is, the timeline's a little weird, but, like, if instead of bald white guy that has no purpose whatsoever, if we'd gotten, I don't know, 10-year-old on a collar, if like Danny was gone for, say, 2 years as opposed to, I'd say, 4 months, maybe 6 months.
Yeah, it's not that long, but yeah.
Yeah. Like, I think it's like 6 months. I think that's the absolute most it could be. But if he was gone for like 2 years, and at the end, Bert sicks a 10-year-old on him in a collar, or takes off a collar from a 10-year-old and sicks him on Danny. That might be more emotionally satisfying. I don't know how good a fighter a 10-year-old could be, but at the same time, the emotional stakes would be so high that it might work okay anyway.
See, the problem there would then be, I don't doubt a 10-year-old could fight on a very high level because it happens. It's not hard. You would just have to, the stunt work might be difficult, but you could do it.
Mm-hmm.
The issue would just be, this is a 10-year-old who's been conditioned to be feral, so now the fighting has to go back to what it was in the beginning, which is very aggressive, very unclean, and then suddenly you mess up your genre expectation of, again, ending on a big fight. The big problem with this movie is it's a psychological drama. It's not a kung fu movie.
Mm-hmm.
But it wants to be both, and they don't mesh by the end.
Yeah, and like the 10-year-old thing is, like, I feel like there's a natural evolution as out of place. Just it feels awkward in the story as the fight in the pool is. That is the best fight, and it's because Danny is working his hardest there.
Yeah,
and he's working his hardest to protect himself, and that's where the character thing comes from. So if you've done, like, feral... and not to rewrite the movie, but to rewrite the movie. If you've done, like, feral 10-year-old, he isn't a physical challenge to Danny. Everything we've seen Danny do, no matter how well-trained this kid is, like, you know, Bert could be like... Bert, whatever. Bert could be like, the second time around, I know what I'm doing now. I didn't make the same mistakes I did with you, Danny. If, like, that scene happened, and this kid was trying to attack Danny... it would be a natural evolution from the second, the pool fight scene, as opposed to being so juxtaposed with the, you know, more traditional kung fu fights.
Right.
That where it would be Danny trying to, like, just hold this kid back because obviously he wouldn't want to hurt him because it's him. So it'd be a very different ending, certainly. And it wouldn't be as much of a physical challenge where we can go, oh yeah, he kicked his ass. But it would, I feel the emotional stakes would balance that out.
Yeah, I mean, I could see that. I think it's all kind of contained in the ending. Where, like, the movie, the opening couple scenes are fantastic. The middle, when he's, like, learning to be more human, is fantastic. It's all a matter of just that ending focusing... and that's the weird thing with it. Well, like, thematically and character-wise, the ending focuses on what it needs to. Directorially and narratively, it doesn't. Mm-hmm. So you end up with a story that's at the ending of the movie is a plot that's a kung fu movie, but a story that's much more deep than that, and they just don't gel.
Yeah, that is a real problem. And then there's also, like, the weird thing of, like, okay, so Sam knocks out Bart. What about the guys downstairs? They're, like, still there. Like, I know that they're pretty dense and just kind of do whatever Bart tells them, but, like, are they just gonna, like, stand there, like, the whole day until the cops show up or whatever? Like, what's going on with them? Like, that's the after credits scene, right? Where they're just like, I wonder if we should go upstairs. I heard the boss telling...
I heard some noises.
Yeah, I heard the boss telling Daddy to kill him. Like, do we still get paid?
You mind if I take my lunch break?
Yeah. I think one of the other... Like, it's weird I have so many problems with this movie, because I do still really like it. I think the other weird thing, and I'm not sure, like, maybe you didn't get this... Did you feel like they were trying to set up some kind of romance between Danny and Victoria?
No, not really. I thought they were more of like a brother-sister thing. I saw them more of like Sam's the dad, Victoria and Danny are brother and sister.
Yeah, and I feel like I get that through a majority of their scenes, but there are just some scenes with Victoria where, like it's after she gets her braces off, and, like, it's the scene where she removes the collar, she goes to kiss him, and like they linger on the idea of her kissing him like on the mouth, but then at the last minute she turns and does the cheek again. I don't know, it's just some of their scenes, it felt like they were trying to establish some kind of romantic subtext, and I did not like that at all.
See, okay, I guess that's... Now that you say that, I could see that. Every time I saw those, like, more what could be construed as, like, a romantic scene, because my head was just predisposed at that point to think of them as brother and sister, I didn't read any of that into it.
Yeah, and, like, initially I'd never had either. It was just something about this watch. I was like, that feels like it's supposed to be kind of a romantic scene for some reason. And it's weird, because she, like, they mention in the movie that she's just turned 18, yet, like, Jetley was in his 40s when he filmed this.
That's true.
That's
then Morgan Freeman's got that thing where, like, they first meet and she kisses him on the cheek, and he's like, how did it feel?
Yeah, wet.
Yeah, and so, like, and it's more about him in that moment, but, like, if you're thinking about them setting up a romance, that scene suddenly has a different, weird, like, oh, she likes you layer.
Yeah, and, like, it's weird for the age gap, and it's also weird because, like, Danny is effectively a child younger than her.
Yeah.
And that's weird for her.
That's weird for her, and it's also just ethically fucked up.
Yeah, because he is mentally disabled at that point. And that's, like, a weird thing for her to try to pursue any kind of relationship with him.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense. I just never read it as a relationship, but if one does, then there's a whole can of problems there.
Yeah, and so I think I'm just going to chalk it up to some bad direction on, like, what they were supposed to be communicating in that scene.
Yeah.
I don't know, it probably would have been fixed if she hugged him instead of kissing him, but whatever.
Well, it's... I don't know. Because the movie's so, like, artsy in places, like, I think kisses make more sense than hugs.
True, I just meant, like, in that specific scene.
Sure, yeah.
Alright, some other stuff, because we mentioned it a lot, but we haven't talked specifically about this, and this is the thing that I really wanted to get into with you, because we talk about the martial arts, but you're also the aestheticist, right? So, like, what do you think of this movie's commentary about art?
I really dug it. So, the piano is a really interesting metaphor for this whole thing, because we do that a lot in art. But like every time we have like the whole noble savage in literature, the thing that they go to play is usually the piano. So I don't know if they did that on purpose or not, but like that's a really cool pull. Ultimately, Danny's whole thing throughout this movie of like trying to find his mother and like the connection between the piano there and the piano in the present, and then more so about like what the piano means to him before the piano itself, like because it's not about like the physical artistic tool here, like it could ultimately be anything. It's what his emotional connection to it is and how it's formed and what it does form over time. And that's a really good way to read into art where like it's particular mediums do particular things, but ultimately it's going to end up on how a person is conditioned to respond to it and how they feel like they need to respond to it. So when it comes to like pulling strings and like a metaphor of the noble beast and all of that, piano's like the perfect tool for it. And it makes perfect sense all the way throughout the end of the movie when like he's at the piano concert and it's for him and it's not for her dad. And at that point, he's appreciating the music being played and the person that's playing it, just like he learned to appreciate himself through music that's being played. It's all kind of wonderful.
Yeah, and I really like that closing line. This is a song for someone whose life was literally saved by music, because it's not like he just got to rediscover his life through music. It's literally the scene that starts the true story here is he is in that antique shop and he cannot resist but play the note, and that's what attracts Sam to him. Is he plays the note, Sam discovers him, and that's who he goes to when he gets injured.
Yeah.
Like, if not for the piano, if Bart just dragged him in the room with them, and he hadn't been allowed to stay around the pianos, when Bart got injured later on, it wouldn't have, there would have been nothing. He wouldn't have known where to go. He would have died in the street. So literally, pressing the key on the piano saved his life. And it's then compounded where living with living with Sam, living with Victoria, learning more about music, playing music, allowed him to learn more about himself, about his life. So it saved his past. It
gave his past like a very particular meaning, or like now he had something that was more material to latch on to, that made him feel like his past was not an abstract thing that someone injected into him, that like real people and real things and real emotions were generated, and he was finally allowed to feel those, as opposed to conditioning himself to act a certain way because of that collar.
Yeah, and that's what I really like about it, is it saves his past, because otherwise he wouldn't have been able to access those memories.
Yeah.
Like playing the music, and that is a real thing that happens. Someone, smells something for the first time in years, and they suddenly recover a memory that they never thought of, or never realized they still had. And you can do the same thing with music. What's that meme I read? Can I remember what I had for breakfast this morning? No. Song comes on the radio that I haven't heard in 20 years. I know every word.
Yep.
And that's so true. Music accesses a different part of the brain, so it's really interesting that you have someone who, by the way Bart raised him, is mentally disabled now. Like this idea of feral children has been something that's fascinated psychologists and sociologists for years. I think they put way too much stock into the phenomenon, but whatever. It's something that they've focused on for years and years, and Danny isn't 100% feral because he was still around people. He still clearly understood language, but he wasn't raised as a person. He was raised as an animal, and so he was not allowed to fully develop his brain in the way that any other child would have been able to. And that's, left serious damage that likely he'll... I think about the long term for this character. He's never going to be, a normal person. Danny is not getting a 9-to-5 job after this.
No, absolutely not.
So, what was done to him, the effects are gonna last forever. But that does not take away his humanity. And he's able to discover his humanity through art, which is one of the most human things.
Yeah. Yeah. It's particularly cool that, it's not isolated to a particular piece, where, it's not just this one song or this one story or something. It's just this abstract concept of playing the piano at all.
Mm-hmm. And he's obviously, his mother was a piano prodigy, or piano student. It's hard to tell with the few details we get. But, she was very aware of the piano. So, that means that he was raised hearing her play piano constantly, because she would have had to be practicing. So all of his memories of pianos, that's why you get that really great scene where Bart is trying to explain the light thing to Danny, which is a contrivance, I'll admit, but I don't care. He's trying to explain the light thing, and Danny can't help but focus on the piano because of what that being one of his only true memories is really, really fascinating.
Yeah. No, that was the thing that made this movie for me, because I thought the psychological drama stuff from the very beginning was interesting, but the moment Morgan Freeman gets in here and he explains the piano thing and tuning the pianos. And then over time, as more of that develops, that became the linchpin of the movie for me, where they're doing something that's particularly human and particularly emotional, and you can't I can't write something that like explains the whole metaphor, because that kind of defeats the point of it. It's not a thing you explain as much as it's a connection you draw from a very common human experience.
Yeah, I agree, and I really like how that all comes together and serves the character arc really well. You know, I've always said I'm more of a theme than character guy, but ideally you should have both. This is a movie that has both.
Yeah.
And I really, really like that about it.
And it does so in a really good, intricate way. It's not like it's not a generic character arc, and it's not a generic resolution to a complex psychological issue. It all coalesces into something that's legitimately unique to this movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I really like the way that it balances the high arts as the things society recognizes as art, like pianos, and you know, there's a level there to photography, with Morgan Freeman's character being blind, but they still have photographs up and stuff. There are levels to that. The main art that's focused on is the music, and specifically the art of playing the piano. But I like how that's all paralleled with martial arts. It's the weakest thematic parallel, but it is there.
Yeah,
and
it's all there perfectly until the end. So it's not like it doesn't work. It just only works to a point.
Yeah, and again, I feel like this movie doesn't fall apart at the end, but it certainly starts losing some of its stuff just to better serve the typical Hollywood action kind of fight scene. And that is a problem that's disappointing, because I feel like there's a much better cut of this movie somewhere, right?
Yeah, probably.
I'm really curious. I don't know if there's deleted scenes for this or not, but I'm curious to see if there are, because that could be interesting.
It's a really short movie. I was expecting to sit down and watch this and spend a whole 2.5 hours on it, but it's not even close to that. So
yeah,
I wouldn't be surprised if there were deleted scenes, but at the same time, the story's fairly natural to where if they are, they're probably very minor.
Yeah, I'm just hoping for an alternate ending.
Yeah.
Oh man. Okay. What else can we talk about with this movie? We need to fill just a couple more minutes.
So Jetley's acting, because we alluded to this a little bit here and there. It's not a bad performance. That's the thing. We're if Jetley was a better actor, I would have more to say about his character. But as is, a lot of the work for his character is being done physically through what he's doing, and then more so with how the characters around him are reacting. As far as Jetley's acting goes, and the fact that this is a movie in English, he's doing a really good job. He's not great or anything. He's not Bob Hoskins in this movie, but for who he is and where he is, he's doing a good job.
Oh yeah, definitely. Jetley's not an actor. He is a martial artist. You know, that's the thing is, so when he does a movie like this, you can tell he actually really did get into the character. This isn't like fucking War with Jason Statham, where it's just oh god, that movie. Where it's just a dumb excuse for some ridiculous ass fight scenes. Everything in here that he's doing is a very purposeful choice, and you can tell he got really into this role. So much so that he needed a year to get out of character. And that's really respectable.
When he says that, it makes me wish this movie had a better legacy, where people, because it's not even it's a badly reviewed movie. It's just, it came out, people thought it was okay, and then they forgot it happened.
Mm-hmm.
And that seems a little unfair.
It is, because this is really good. The thing that made me think about this is Rasco and I talking about The Grinch and all the stuff, or not the Grinch, but talking about The Mask and all the stuff Jim Carrey did for the Grinch, and he had to go through torture training with the CIA to put on all the makeup for the Grinch.
Yeah.
And it's like, you wouldn't expect that level of dedication from an actor in a comedy, but he did it because he takes his job that seriously. And this the same thing. This is what got me thinking about this movie, was Jet Li's dedication to this role, wherein he cared about doing the character so rightly that he got that far into the method side of things and needed time to get himself out of it. And you wouldn't expect that from, an action movie guy. Like, we mentioned Jean-Claude Van Damme in the last thing we recorded. No, Jean-Claude Van Damme would never do that. Arnold Schwarzenegger would never do that. Sylvester Stallone, maybe, but probably not.
This is the thing with more martial arts based movies and martial arts based actors, particularly like the good ones, as opposed to just like the generic kung fu fight movie guys. Because martial arts it's not just like learning how to fight. Like, it's a very particular thing that goes all throughout your life and all throughout everything you do, which is a big thing in Bruce Lee, but it's a big thing with most of these guys. So like when Jet Li says he got into the character and it took him a year to get out of character, or Donnie Yen says something like he invented an entire way of fighting for his character in Rogue One because that character is blind. These are not small things. Mm-hmm. And the fact that you don't physically see that in the movie as much as you might want to doesn't discredit the fact that this happened, because ultimately it's them as martial artists trying to define physically what a particular experience would be like. Because Donnie Yen's not an actor. Jet Li is not an actor. Bruce Lee is an actor, but kind of isn't an actor. Mm-hmm. Same with Jackie Chan. Like, all of these people, like, despite being actors, so much more of their thing comes from being physical. So being in a medium that's all about like psychological and linguistic presentation and trying to convert that as best as they can into something really physical, that's very difficult and very much different than how we come to appreciate acting in like Western movies, but by no means like less valid or less important. Like, there's a different level of skill, but an equal level of greatness to how Jackie Chan performs a comedic scene as opposed to Jim Carrey in his heyday.
Yeah, and it's weird because the physical side of acting is something that, like, you don't notice it until you notice it. Like, until someone does something really, really blatant that is, like, physically memorable, you don't really notice some of the physical stuff actors do, like the way they portray their body to match the character. Like, everyone remembers Joker from Dark Knight licking his lips. Everyone remembers that. But, like, you don't notice, when an actor just is filling a performance and they don't do, like, particular traits like that until someone points it out to you.
Well, and it's very, again, here's Bruce Lee. So Bruce Lee has this thing where he's like, there's a primitive stage, there's a stage of art, and there's the stage of the artless. And basically what this breaks down as is, if you're in martial arts, so like
Whitehead.
Huh?
That reminds me of Whitehead.
Yeah, probably so. But like the way that breaks down basically is that primitive stage would be like, if you're in a fight, you're just reacting, like you don't have any discipline, you don't know what you're doing, you're just kind of like punching and kicking. Then stage of art would be like, oh, now you do know what you're doing, but you're very mechanical. And so like, you know that like, if you move in this way, you do this thing and it creates this thing. And then stage of artless is combining those two where like, you know what you're doing, but your body is reacting to it and making it very natural. So you're performing something with great discipline without having to think about it. So, like, the Joker example is a good one, where, like, Joker is, in that movie, Heath Ledger, he never misses any of his words, he never misses any of his cues, he never slurs anything, he never needs to, like, have any sort of deep pauses or talk too fast. Every word is always perfect, and his mouth always opens perfectly, and like there's no hesitation in the way he's speaking, and that happens because he licks his lips constantly, and his lips get wet, and so his mouth moves more freely.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, it's a very natural sort of physical tick with a very mechanical, very disciplined thing that leads to a very nuanced performance.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, and this is really hard to do. Like, someone can tell you that's how he did it, and then you'll try to do it, and you won't get it. It doesn't work that way, and this is where martial artists as actors are underappreciated, because they can do these things. It's just no one cares.
Yeah, because they don't take the time to analyze that stuff. Like, you'll have people say, oh, I don't care for martial arts movies because there's no story. I'm like...
And that's also why they're not hired as actors, right? Like, no one hires Jet Li to be an actor, but if you got him to do something like this, he can.
Mm-hmm. And, like, again, people say, oh, I don't like martial arts movies because there's usually no story. It's just an excuse for fight scenes. I'm like, that's certainly true to an extent about a lot of martial arts movies, but you're also missing some of the nuances provided by the performance that enhance what story there is.
Yeah.
And that's always disappointing when people overlook an art form in that way. Because it is hard. Like, an athlete is someone who has physically conditioned their body. And to get back to the piano example, Morgan Freeman's character, he has that line, people think pianos are so big that you can just beat on them and it doesn't matter. But you do that and they get all out of whack and then they need to be fixed up. And the whole movie is about how Jetley, how Danny has been beaten on, no one cares about him and they think it doesn't matter. And then the whole movie is him getting tuned up. And it shows in his fighting style, wherein it goes from I don't care about myself, I am an animal, I am fighting like an animal, to I actually care about myself, I don't want to die, and I also don't want to kill people, I don't want to hurt people anymore. Love that line. And then it kind of, it's not perfect, but it goes to like this transcendent, like I think the nicest possible interpretation, where you're maybe giving it too much credit, is it transcends to a level of what you think of as elegant and flourishing kind of fighting.
I mean, it's not perfect, but that's kind of where it wants to be by the end, and for the most part, it gets it. Yeah,
I'd give it, like, as far as achieving that goal, I'd probably give it like a 7 out of 10.
Yeah, I could be there. It's a thing where, like, I know what they're saying, and I appreciate what they're saying, even if how they're saying it is noticeably problematic.
It's like when, like, you're reading someone's paper who's, like, reviewing a book or something for the first time, and they do have a really interesting and profound take on something. It's just they don't quite have the knowledge base to get there and fully express it in a way that is completely comprehensive. But you can see what they're trying to go for.
Yeah,
you know?
Or if they've independently come to a very important idea that's already there. So, like, you can give them that on some level, even if it's not perfect.
Yeah. God, I have that so much with philosophy. It pisses me off.
Happens all the time. Every time.
It's like,
there's nothing. If you think you've solved something, you haven't. Someone else already did it.
Yeah, and they're mocking you from their grave. That's what I'm going to do, Steve. I'm going to start a Kickstarter to buy me airplane tickets to fly across the world and piss on the philosophers' graves who have discovered things before I did. All of them.
All of them.
I feel like...
kill the ones that are alive so you can do that to them.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like I could legitimately get some money from the philosophical community to do that. Like, they would consider it such a profound act of philosophy.
I mean, performative art all the way.
Oh, man. All right. This is getting to the point where it's just silliness now. Steve, what do you want to rate this movie?
I'm going to give this 4 out of 5 punch-blocking headbutts.
Nice. You actually went higher than I was thinking I was going to go, but now that I've got the Steve Baxi high seal of approval, I'm going to meet you at a 4 out of 5 sand dripping punching bags. Like,
that was a pretty good shot, too. I really liked that.
He's so sad because he doesn't understand what's happening. And, like, he's afraid to talk, to, like, ask anyone what's going on.
So profound.
Oh, man. Great physical performance. Okay, Steve, we need a discussion topic for next week.
Discussion topic. Let me check the playlist really quick because I want to make sure.
You've got a video on everything. You're probably
We do.
You got to go piss on every Geeky Gentleman video.
Well, I mean, we did promise that video on proper bed making.
I mean, like, do you really think you can get an hour and 15 minutes out of proper bed making?
Dude, teaching someone how to do hospital corners takes an hour. I think so.
I'm gonna veto this one.
Fine. If you must. Let's see. There's a lot of options here. And we just did a list, so I don't want to do a list.
Okay.
I should have thought of something earlier, but I forgot it was my turn. Let's see. Damn it.
It's cool. Take your time. How's everybody doing? How's everybody in the world doing right now? Y'all good? Y'all having a grand old time? I'm glad to hear that. Steve, I thought you think all the time. Shouldn't you think of something?
I thought I did. Well, okay. Let me check my notepad of writing topics.
Okay.
We can just yank one of those.
Yeah, because you'll never get to them. So.
Yeah, there you go. Well, actually, I'm making some pretty good progress. I got about 3 out of 22 done. So.
Oh, that's what is the percentage on that? Let me break that down.
I don't math. I don't know. Literally, I spent a week thinking I had $100 less in my bank account than I do just because I suck at math. Do you know how much anxiety that creates and how it all just disappears?
I bet it was a huge relief, though. You should try to do that to yourself more often.
It's so bad.
Well, if you don't want to use one of those, I think I just got something based off what you were talking about there.
Oh, okay. Go for it.
All right. Let's talk about whether or not math actually matters. Let's not restrict it to only math. Let's not pick on math. Let's talk about the thing every elementary public school kid up until high school says. When are we ever going to use this? So let's talk about when are you ever going to use what you learned in school?
Ooh, that'll be a fun way to pick on the education system.
Yes. Yes, it will.
And standardized tests.
Yes, exactly. So we're going to talk about when will I... That'll be the topic name. When will I use this?
Also homework. Homework for people who are watching the end of the show and are looking forward to next week's show. There's a book converted from an article called Weapons of Math Destruction. Look it up. It's very much tied into this and worth reading. The core premise just being, is math sexist? The answer is yes.
Like math itself or the institutions surrounding mathematics?
The institutions of surrounding mathematics. Essentially, we'll go into it next week, but essentially the whole notion being that, the way we teach math and the way math is structured boys or people who identify as male do better on it than women because women, traditionally in the way math is structured and written, are like spoken down to or condescended through math. It's interesting. It's really intricate.
Okay, cool.
Yes.
All right, so we'll get into that. That'll be fun. We'll talk about what you're learning in school. I don't know how many people watching this show are in school, but if you are, you should have a good time. All right.
And at some point you were in school, so.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like it has a more profound impact if you are in school than were in school.
No, that's true, because if you're out of school, then you already know the answer.
Yeah. All right, everyone, thanks very much for watching. Until next time, I'm the Philosopher.
And I'm the Exile.
And we are your Geeky Gentlemen, and we will be discussing things.